Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. In today's video, we'll be going over a couple important dates I found for next week. I'll be starting off with a Gematria decode and recapping how this recent full moon we had yesterday has been influencing the markets. And then we'll go over the charts for the crypto market and do some technical analysis to review this setup as we move into this weekend. And I'll have my next Red Pill podcast available on Patreon this Sunday. Last week's episode is available now. I had a great time doing that podcast and really taking the time to break down my sentiment on the markets and how I'm navigating times like these, sharing where my mind is at regarding this current economic cycle and my outlook on the altcoins my community picks each week. So if you're interested in more exclusive content, you could check out my Patreon at patreon.com/watersabove. Greatly appreciate all of your support. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So we know yesterday was officially the full moon and we had our little microcycle low. Price of Bitcoin actually dipped below 19,000 for a little bit. And then we actually saw the day end green. So it's a very positive sign. And it's something that I actually brought up in my last Red Pill podcast, where I was mentioning how even if the market looks like it's going up into a full moon, on the actual day of the full moon or a couple days before, we can see the dip lead into it. And that's actually exactly what happened. So it was nice to see that moment come. And then on the date of the full moon yesterday, seeing the market actually drop down into those lows and then get picked up and end the day green. So just to give you a little bit of a visual representation, we see topping out in the market around July 8th, coming down into the 12th, which was the day before the actual full moon. And then yesterday we get this little wick dipping down slightly below 19,000, but then green on the end and finished 4% up, which was pretty positive. Today getting a little bit of a doji. We'll be going over the charts in a moment, but it's nice to see how this simple indicator that I shared with people a while ago, just analyzing everything on the moon cycle, has saved a lot of hardship and having to learn all these crazy setups and weird indicators and moving averages and momentum indicators. This saves a lot of time for people to just learn the swing on the monthly cycle of the bearish energy being around full moons and the bullish energy being more around new moons. And when we say around, again, just to repeat ourselves, it's 5 days before up to 5 days after whatever the cycle you're discussing. So of course, yesterday was the actual day of the full moon, and we got lucky with that low on that date, because when you're seeing that happen, we're starting to get a little bit more clarity into potential bottoming structure. And this was a lot easier to navigate back when we were in this cycle over here. You could see clearly almost every black dot, which is a new moon, we're getting a cycle top, and then leading into full moons, we're getting that white circle, which is the full moon. And this just repeated itself over and over and over again. And it was beautiful to see how every cycle top was hitting around those new moons. And then any eclipses we had, which was right around here, we had those two back-to-back eclipses. We got a washout of the market, bottoming structure, recovery, etc. And we know the rest is history, even getting that all-time high within about 4 days of the new moon of November. And we've been talking about that for a while, how Bitcoin likes to hit all of its all-time highs around the new moon of Q4, specifically November, December, around a new moon. Then all of the all-time lows happen around Q4, leading into the new year, around full moons. So it saves us a lot of time and a lot of effort having to think so hard. This indicator is awesome. So I also go over that thoroughly and how to actually use it in my Mastermind course. So anybody who's a Patreon supporter, you get 20% off my Mastermind course. And it goes over that moon cycle very in depth. So we had that full moon yesterday. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit. We have today going on. The energy is sort of neutral. We do see that the dollar, the DXY, is definitely recovering. I mean, it's pretty much hit a new cycle top regarding this micro cycle. I know when we talk about the dollar, we're talking about a really long time history, but it just continues to break out. So I'm actually anticipating to release a full-blown DXY analysis on probably the weekly, monthly, just these larger time frames. And we're gonna, sorry, I'm on bonds right now. We're gonna be looking at this DXY chart in the macro sense, like going back 10, 20 years. And I'll be probably releasing that in about a week or so. I don't want to put too much time on it, but I think it'll be a nice piece of valuable content over on Patreon. So let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. I'm going to leave it here just so we could remember where to pick back up, because there's something that I want to say about the bottom of this 2018 to 2019 cycle a little bit later. So of course, we're getting that kind of like weird energy in the crypto market, but overall, when we see the DXY as a bullish signal, that's going to be putting pressure on the indices, is going to be putting pressure on the stock market. And today with Bitcoin, it's kind of just stabilized because we know that crypto's really taken a hit. We're seeing, 80 to 95% losses across the board. We're seeing Bitcoin dominance start to recover. We're seeing lots of, chaos and issues regarding different companies filing for bankruptcy, becoming essentially liquidated. And this is the type of chaos that we saw back in the dot-com bubble. And I've been comparing this cycle a lot to that dot-com bubble. And now we're seeing it kind of play itself out every month. So let's just get into this date of the 16th, which is something that I shared a little bit regarding the last podcast that I put out. But I'm just going to show you guys a couple of these connections, and it could be something that is important. And I haven't gotten to the big important dates yet, but we're going to start out with this one just to show you guys a couple connections. I know a lot of you might have been here for a year or so, been following my work for a while, but I always like to go over some of the basics because I'm always getting, new podcasts, new interviews with people, and it's bringing over people that might not be aware of my work. They might not even know about Gematria. They might not even know about crypto. And that's awesome. We're growing a community that's very wholesome. It's bringing in people from all these different backgrounds. People are interested in different things. And that was always my goal. It was to attract people of different mindsets so they could bring their value to our community. That's what it's all about. It's all about that unity. So, of course, I just recently did a podcast with Donut Factory, so go check out his channel. That podcast was awesome. I've been, communicating a lot with Logan. We'll probably be doing another new podcast soon, so go check out Decode Your Reality. He's an incredible decoder. So I'm excited to, get these connections going, but also I try to reiterate some of the basics in every video I put out just to help those people who are new to my work. So a huge connection to be made here between Saturday, July 16th and this Rosh Hashanah date. So this is Rosh Hashanah, the date of the end of the Shemitah. Okay, the Shemitah being the 7-year cycle practiced in Judaism. We are in the Shemitah year right now. So this is the Rosh Hashanah, or the Hebrew New Year. And when you take from this date, which is coming up in 2 days, compared to Rosh Hashanah, you're getting 72 days. And I'm going to show you a bunch of connections, but that 72 again comes back to the basics with Bitcoin in the English ordinal cipher. So you see that 72 right there. Now, this is going to get even deeper because we actually have this being on a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn, and Saturn is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of the blockchain, the creator of crypto, the creator of the qubit. So it's also interesting to see in this connection how we have that Bitcoin connection. Of course, Saturn or Satoshi created Bitcoin, and we have that 72 connection coming right back there. And then also it being the 2 months and 10 days. And in just basic numerology, you're always removing the zeros. So you have the 21. And again, Saturn giving you that 21 in the Chaldean and the full reduction, but more importantly, that Chaldean cipher. And then you also have it being 10 weeks and 2 days, which is the 102, or the 12, which is just the reverse of the 21. Again, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's always about mirroring when we're doing alchemy. We never mimic, we always mirror. So when you're seeing these connections and they're coming back all to the same place, you got to pay attention. right? So this is definitely an interesting thing. And to go even deeper, we have this being the 197th day of the year, and 197 is the 45th prime number. And Bitcoin also gives you 45 in the reversible reduction. So you could see that 45 right there. So again, 197th day of the year. 197 is the 45th prime number, and Bitcoin also gives you that 45. And there's a couple other cryptos that give you the 45 as well, but we're just making it basic. When it comes back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin being the energy of the market, it being the sun of the solar system of cryptocurrency, just save your time and decode off of Bitcoin. And if you want to get a little bit more savvy, you can break it down into Ethereum, get into the ISO 222 projects, get into some of the names of the people behind those projects. And then from there, you tie it back to the mythologies. And that's what we've been doing here on this channel. It's been working incredibly. So again, tying back that Bitcoin to Satoshi to Saturn, and we're going to do that again in a moment. I'm going to show you a couple more things, but this date could be something, that connection with that 72. Now, going up a couple days, we have this date of July 18th, and I just want to share with you why this could be something to pay a little bit more attention to, because when you take off of the date of the full moon, which was yesterday, and go over 5 days, you're going to get to about the 18th. Now, this is just on the crypto chart closing, so it's not me trying to be super specific. It's about giving you a window of energy. So I've been having people over the last couple of weeks, they're saying, well, Jordan, should the market be up or down? It's like, come on, guys. The full moon is a bearish energy. Give it 5 days before, up to 5 days after. You have, on this date, 5 days before, you have the start of a bearish energy moving into the date of the full moon. So let's give it 5 days out. And that's July 18th. Does that make, that's my easiest way of explaining it. So again, go back and listen a little bit earlier in the video when I was describing the moon cycle and the energy and how that all works. But now to actually apply everything that I'm talking about, that's what we're doing now. So I'm taking 5 days out. That brings us to the 18th of July. And this is the date we're working with now. Now, this date of July 18th coming to Rosh Hashanah gives me 70 days. That's important because this is the end of the Shemitah, and Shemitah equals 70 in English ordinal cipher. So we have a connection there. So pay attention to that. Keep that in mind. That could be something to consider. Another thing is this will be the 18th day of this month, and Shemitah giving us the 18. We know the number 18 is very powerful in Judaism. And this is also the 22 date numerology. So in standard date numerology, you're getting that 22. I would pay attention to this date because that 22 we've been talking about all year. Again, the Shemitah year is in the Hebrew year of 5,782, which again gives you that 22. So we have lots of connections here. It's also going to be this day of the year, the 199th day of the year, which is like taking that power number of 99 and giving it a little bit more oomph, like giving it a little bit more power. So again, that 99 connecting back to Jupiter, right there with the English ordinal cipher. And we're going to make another connection in a moment, but Judaism is all about Jupiter worship, Jesus, Zeus. Okay, that's what this is all about. Again, this isn't about religion or hurting anyone's feelings. It's about exposing the truth. It's about accepting the red pill and having that red pill turn into a clear pill. This is the only way it could be done. Opening up the aperture of the pineal gland. So this is going to get really interesting as we transition into the following date. So this is what this video is mostly about. It's going to be about July 19th. Big date. And we were talking a little bit about the number 72 before and the connection to Bitcoin with that 72. And we were talking about how in alchemy, we're always mirroring. So that would be the 27. We have that 27 right there. But another connection to be made is that tie back to Jupiter. You could see Jupiter giving you that 27. And this is on a Tuesday, which is Martes, which is the day of Mars. And Mars, of course, is the sun of Jupiter, right? So let's just show you the numbers here because this is where I really wanted to focus. July 19th connecting to Rosh Hashanah is going to be 69 days. And we've been talking about this number 69 quite a bit lately. It's the number of balance, the yin yang, the sign of Cancer, which is basically the portal of the exit of this matrix for man. It's a very complicated and complex number. It ties back to transmutation, lots of things. And we've been talking about it a lot ever since Bitcoin hit 69,000 as the all-time high, and that's the current all-time high. It's just been really fascinating to see how every time we have a connection to the number 69, especially regarding cryptocurrency and blockchain, it's powerful, and it's been noticeable since Bitcoin hit that $69,000. So this will be 69 days until the end of the Shemitah. It's really going to be an interesting time, because if we analyze this a little bit further, we can see it's also 9 weeks and 6 days, the mirror of the 69. And that 9/6 is very important because the date of Rosh Hashanah leaves 96 days in the year. Okay? So again, we're having a lot of connections to this number of balance. And how this number is going to manifest itself, or how this date's going to manifest itself, let's just go back to the lunar cycle, okay? So we said 5 days after the full moon, we typically have the energy kind of conclude, and then we start moving into the new energy. Perhaps the 19th into the 20th is going to be a pivot point, but we want to be open-minded because we're in the year of the Shemitah, and this market is extremely boring and scary right now for people. So retail isn't that interested. Believe it or not, they're just not interested anymore because the market's down, and it's been down and sideways at this bottom level for long enough to kind of drain them of their emotions. And that's what a market is designed to do. The person who created this game, they know that this is a game of emotion. And if people can get, persuaded and just at this tug of war of emotion, then the people who created the game can maintain posture while allowing these unsophisticated players called retail. And this isn't me being negative towards I'm a retail investor, but I pay attention to the apex predator. I pay attention to the elite and the moves they make. I know that they're playing the game of chess while most people are playing the game of checkers, right? So you want to be like them in terms of your analytical side. You want to be like them and towards the more conscious side of things. And that's why bringing this back to the astrology and the numerology and the Gematria gives you that extra layer, so you could actually see the machinations of what's going on here and not just be confused all the time about what's going on in a market. You actually have some clarity for once. So this could be an important date as well, because the standard date numerology giving you that 23, and of course that 23 coming back to Bitcoin and the Chaldean cipher. And this is powerful because that's the 9th prime number. 23 being the 9th prime, that's the number of spatial infinity. It's the number of everything. And this is our primordial sky god, Uranus, giving you that 23. This is the exit of the Taurus. This is every celestial luminary is within Uranus, and that is very important. And we're also getting that 22 in the full reduction. Absolutely important. XRP giving us that 22 in the full reduction. You could see where this is going. So let's take that back a little bit and break it down some more. We know that this actual connection, to this date could be powerful because of that 69 and all of these connections that we're discussing. And this last thing to mention regarding this date being the transition into the 20th, and how this is also a 69 date numerology. This is the way I like to do date numerology, adding up any double digits, and you could see again that 69 connection, 69 days until the end of Rosh Hashanah, which is the date leaving 96 days in the year, transitions into the 69 date numerology, which also has that 15 standard date numerology. We've been talking about the year of the tiger and tying that back to Jupiter, so go back and watch my other videos. Another huge connection here is this being the 201st day of the year, the 201, like event 201. And of course, in the rules of numerology, you get rid of that 0, you have the 21. So that 21 tying us back, of course, to Saturn, to Satoshi. One other thing that we could say about this is a Wednesday, or the day of Mercury, which is Hermes, and this being 68 days left until the end of the Shemitah, and Hermes giving you that 68 in the English ordinal cipher, right? Connecting you to this date. So perhaps the date of the 19th into the 20th are the two big dates that I'm personally paying attention to. I would love to know some of your thoughts and some of your decodes, some of the things that you guys have been considering as you've watched this. That would definitely make the comment section have much more value. And this could be the volatile pivot or the volatile switch that could bring us towards the new moon energy, which we see the new moon is on the 28th, bringing us back about 5 days. Up to 5 days after is a transition into the month of August. So remember, the months of July and August were added to the Gregorian system. And that's Julius and Augustus, and this is what's made the Gregorian calendar so confusing to people, even by some of the prefixes. And we could tell that like with sept, oct, nov, and des, and you could see sept or septem being 7, oct like octagon is an 8-sided polygon, nov for 9, and des for deci or decimal over to the 10th. And that should be 10, but instead in our Gregorian system, it's a 12. It doesn't make any sense. And it's because July and August were added by the Romans in the Roman calendar, pushing us from the Julian into this Gregorian system, which was done on purpose. And when you start analyzing, these kind of frauds within the cycle, that's where utilizing astrology, particularly sidereal, starts to help you have a whole new lens of how to analyze what's going on here. But remember, keep it simple. And that's why I like to look at the moon phases, because this just simplifies everything. Okay, so let's review some of the charts. We'll kind of analyze what's going on here. As I said a little bit earlier, we have the DXY, the US dollar currency index. It is really pumping, breaking into a new cycle high, essentially in the micro. You could see it putting pressure on the indices, crypto just balancing. Well, we know Bitcoin, if we zoom out, we're going to go to here on a daily chart, and we're going to analyze based off of this bottoming structure and comparative to this bottoming structure. Essentially, we have this as our horizontal support right there, and at this break of horizontal support, coming down into some of the lower levels, which backtest this wick and this cluster of trading range regarding the tops, or what was prior resistance. You broke out into this all-time high, this kind of blow off top, long, arduous sideways consolidation range, break of structure, back test those two important levels. So as you can see, we've done something very similar where we have a pop. We traded for a longer time, but that's to be expected because as Bitcoin grows in market cap, it should lose volatility. We know this. We have a horizontal trading range. Once we broke the horizontal trading support, we broke down into this cluster of trading and the prior all-time high top. Okay, so these structures right there, this break looks similar to me to this break. Can Bitcoin go lower? Absolutely. I talked about it a lot actually in my last podcast that I just released over on Patreon. So we've been talking about the Shemitah. I released the Shemitah decoded video over on Patreon, and I also released a couple weeks ago the Wyckoff method tutorial for the macro analysis regarding how to actually utilize Wyckoff method for the end of the Shemitah. And again, those videos combined, I feel have so much value in helping us kind of navigate or have a compass for what's to come as we transition through the end of this year, moving into Q1 of 2023. And 2023 is going to be a really, really interesting year. It's going to be like a pivot year, moving us into those big eclipses that are going to come in 2024. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but anyone who's into astrology, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm putting most of my focus, most of my energy into the eclipses of October and November of this year. We got to take it one step at a time, right? That's the big time frame that I'm utilizing for any, big, really incredible buying opportunities. So that's why I've been holding off lately on accumulation, because I want this market to give me what I've been waiting for, which is the end of the Shemitah. These prices we're getting right now are very juicy. They're very enticing. But as a more sophisticated investor, I've learned a very important trait, and that is called patience. And patience gets rewarded for those who've put in the work and actually designed their own investment thesis off of what they're aware of and what they have going on for themselves financially. This is what made a lot of people not do so well around here into here, is because they didn't have an investment thesis. A lot of people were in disbelief of crypto, especially after the C-word crash. And my work is to help people design their own investment thesis with these more esoteric principles. This way you actually can utilize this hidden knowledge, take it, create your own investment thesis, have your own exit strategy, and be sophisticated about this. This way, if something goes against you, it's on you. There's no finger pointing, there's no blame game, but you learn a lot, and that's what it's all about. There is no mistakes. All of your mistakes are your greatest choices, and all of your successes were just you actually doing the work, putting in that time, and taking every moment as an opportunity. You know, it's a huge mindset change. So structurally, I do see this being a similar breaking that horizontal structure. And if we were to actually measure off of this, we're getting about 74%. That's about where we should be, because Bitcoin on the last couple cycles moved back about 85%. So as Bitcoin goes up less, it should come down less, right? But we have that end of the Shemitah. So that's why I've been kind of plugging in people's, kind of helping people to get ready. If there is going to be a bigger washout, it's possible, and there's some technical levels regarding that 12, 13, 5, 14 level. But getting back on track, and we're going to wrap up this video very soon. I do like how we've been holding a sideways kind of, structure, even though we free fell into a lower level. That's very similar to what happened back here. And we saw fake outs, it got really jagged around the structure. And then right after all that jagged behavior, it had a nice, really slow move to the upside, getting back to this resistance. So let me just zoom in. You can see there's a horizontal resistance right there around 4,200. Again, of course, it's 4,200. That's the number 42. And that number 42, of course, coming back to Saturn, but we know Bitcoin and the number 24 and the number 42 have been at play because it's tied to Saturn and tied to Jupiter. Jupiter's zodiac logo being, anyways, I talk about that enough. And when you decided to break that, oh shit, it broke it on April 2nd, which is the date of 4/2. Oh man, somebody got to record this and repost that moment. I didn't even know that until just making this video. Well, that's what happens when I make these. I freestyle, nothing scripted. I just go with the flow and, channel in the wisdom and gnosis and share it. But it's amazing. You got your resistance here at 4,200 on the date of April 2nd, which is the 4/2 date. You broke out and you actually recovered. And it was a beautiful recovery. If you take from the exact bottom, which again, you notice where it's at, it's in December. And I told you guys earlier, our all-time lows typically happen in Q4 near that December, October, November timeframe. So you got about 350% over about 200 days. It's a pretty dramatic amount of time, but again, like anyone who took advantage of this structure between that 4,200 and that 3,300, it all paid off. And structurally, you only had about, 40 days of pain when it broke this horizontal trading range with the C-word crash, and that was necessary to actually be a part of the overall structure. When I teach Wyckoff method, I was teaching actually before I even made my YouTube channel back in September and October of 2020, believe it or not. I had my Mastermind course designed then, so we got to watch the bull run kind of take off. But I was calling this the buying climax, this your selling climax, this your automatic rally, and this your spring. And it's not necessarily all about the structure. It could just be about the shape, like the fractal. And that's what I loved about that moment, because if you look at a lot of the altcoins, they made all their all-time lows at that moment, but it was recovered within 50 days. I mean, that is such a beautiful buying opportunity. When it's the most scary, it's the best time to buy. When it's the most scary and boring, it's really a good time to buy. So structurally, I would like to compare as such, but this jagged move to lows or potentially this other bottom is welcome at any time. And if we look at from when we entered that horizontal trading range to when we recovered out of it, it took some time. It took about 170 days. And if you go out 170 days, where does that bring us? It brings us right to the end of the year, around December. Okay, so this is a really good time to be patient and to be using this moment between now and, Q1 of 2023 to learn, to teach yourself, to get educated with people you resonate with. It doesn't necessarily have to be my course or my Patreon, just with people you resonate with that are aware of how this market's operating and can provide you that educational material. Now is the time to be learning. Up here, it was really just people wanting to get in because the market was euphoric. And that's not really the greatest time to be taking big bets. You know, of course you have shock moments, you have little like opportunities here and there, but overall, you know, those who have a really well thought out investment thesis, they're not utilizing 1 month, 2 month, 3 month periods. They're looking at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. And that's particularly why I have a lot of focus on the coins that I look at because of that. You know, I'm looking at this long term, like a true investor. So I hope that makes a lot of sense. Regarding the technicals, you know, in my Patreon post this last week, I went over the technicals a lot, but right now we're just like a falling knife. You know, we're holding this, but if we were to start getting weekly closes below 19,300, we could fill out this wick to 17.7 and even drop then. So we kind of want to like consider this moment right now as if we stay under this 21.5 level, 21,500, we are going to be chopping around and potentially be forming some rising wedge, which is a decent thing at the end of the day. And any breaks would probably lead us to 27, 28. But remember last week I was talking about a W breakout and how a W can quickly turn into an M if you get rejected at the neckline. And that's what happened. And we should have anticipated that because we had the full moon incoming. Okay, the closer we get to the full moon, you need to de-risk accordingly. So we have that W, we have a break right here, rejection. Okay, no break, just a wick. Okay, break rejection, followed by what looked like a W actually started to become an M, and this could be your new W, but it's still the same price. Okay, it's 21.5. I was actually not even going to make a YouTube video today because there wasn't a whole lot to share regarding the TA. There was just a lot of mindset and, you know, esotericism that I wanted to share with people today, but that 21.5 level is still crucial for Bitcoin. And of course it's 21,000 because we've been talking about that number 21 tied to Saturn quite a bit. So just pay attention to these levels. If Bitcoin was to break 21,500, we could have a move up into this next level, which is, you could do a measured move if you'd like. You could take from the neckline right there down to your wick, and then you could pop it up there. You could see it's about 25, but with crypto, it's very volatile. So you take it up to your wick to wick, and you could put it on the wick, and you're probably going to be getting within that wick right there on May 26th, somewhere like I just said, 27,000 to 28,000. And then you have your bottom level around 29. So some cryptos have even broke back into structure and had a noticeable spring, especially if they've lost 95 to 98% of their value. It's a lot easier for them to do that. With Bitcoin only losing 70%, 74% of its value, you know, it's going to be a little bit more sluggish, right? It's also a larger dollar amount, and retail has no interest in stuff like Bitcoin because they don't know about fractions of a Bitcoin. They're just uneducated. So they rather play their money in stuff that's like fractions of a penny per share, right? Per coin. So I just want you guys to pay attention to 21.5 and then pay attention to this recent daily close we had 2 days ago, right before that full moon, somewhere around 19.3 and ultimately 19.1. Any daily closes below 19, you're going to start to see a fill out down to this 1618 level, which it would show up in log right there. Boom. So you can see down at that level right there, that 1618. Now let's go quickly through Ethereum. So, okay, look at this. We did have a little bit of that wedge drawn out. That was for fun. And now it's turned into a more horizontal. So we're slightly moving up, but this is bear flaggish, you know, this does look like a bear flag. I'm not a huge patterns guy, but I do like to sometimes just get in there and use them on daily closes and just have fun. So you can see there's a really nice rebound going on for ETH right now with about 5% up, but we still have the same conditions for Bitcoin. We need that neckline broken, which is around 1,240. Okay, so pay attention to that neckline. And then on the downside, we have these lows around, just call it any daily closes below $1,000. And then you would have conditions filling the wick down to 890. XRP, not a whole lot to say. We just have continual lower highs, lower high from the break of structure, lower high, lower high, lower high. And then since this bounce right here, we still barely have any structure. So this coin, it's still super suppressed and just being, moved around left and right by pretty much just traders. Probably very little invested retail is doing anything with this coin right now, which is a good thing. That means we're kind of at the holder level. Once we broke through to this level, I think we're kind of now where like it's the real deal long-term XRP holders are just holding the line, and we'll see how this plays out into the end of the year. But for the most part, as long as Bitcoin's conditions are met, which I shared earlier, we're going to see the same conditions met with XRP. So recovery for Bitcoin into that $26,000 area, which is right about here, 25, 26, which you can see it's just a big, blank area of trading. You could definitely see XRP at that moment come back into about 53, 54. So pay attention to that. The timing of when that happens is really, not necessarily available at this time because the volatility, the volume is so low. So we just have to be open-minded to paying attention to Bitcoin and see how that goes. And that would, of course, be an overall reflection of how the DXY and the stock market behaves, which we know historically after the end of that 7-year cycle, which is upcoming very soon in late September into October, you typically get your big historic wipeout moments. So I'm keeping, my patience as my priority because that's really what helps people during these 7-year cycles. Crypto has only been around through one other Shemitah besides what we have today. So anyone who was back in the 2014, 2015 crypto cycle, oh man, XRP was what, fractions of a penny at that time? We're talking about this time frame where XRP was less than a penny for a really long, arduous horizontal trading range until it finally popped. And then when it popped, you see 60,000%. And a lot of people disregard that time frame. But this right here, this red box, that was the year of the Shemitah. So within this red box at the start, we did get a peak and then died out into lows. And those lows came at the end of Shemitah. You see, that's late September, October, November, December, bottomed. Okay. So you can see this is kind of like your Shemitah top, and then you just drown out into the end. So we just have to be open-minded and patient. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, I'll be doing my Friday live stream tomorrow. So be catching the wolf pack over there, hanging out with you guys a little bit. And then this Sunday, I'll have the new Red Pill podcast available. We'll be going over a lot of the things that we've spoken about today. And I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.